This time I'm going to talk to you about the absolute con that is TOMS and their one day without shoes.
So there's this company called TOMS and they sell shoes.
And in order to raise the profile of their brand,
They've come up with this little scheme.
or what I like to think of as a scam,
They have this annual event every April.
they call it one day without shoes. So what they say is that there are lots of people in the world who don't have shoes and we should feel really sorry for them. We should have a little charity event where everyone tries to go a day without shoes so they can experience how horrible it is and help TOMS donate pairs of shoes for all these poor people who don't have shoes. So TOMS have this offer that superficially looks rather generous. If you buy a pair of their shoes, they'll donate another pair somewhere in the third world. But there's a problem with that, a massive economic problem, that someone's already done a wonderful job of doing that. So I'm just going to link there so you can see the economic reasons why this is a bad idea. Instead, I want to talk about quite a few other things that I really don't like about what TOMS are doing.
So picture yourself as a person who's been used to wearing shoes their whole life. And they experience this one day without shoes.
And what do you find? You find it's really uncomfortable because your feet aren't used to it. Your skin is still very, very soft. It's never had a chance to develop properly. So you think,
Wow, that was really difficult. Imagine what that must be like to do your whole life.
and what you never get to discover is that first day is crucial to developing your feet properly so that it doesn't always feel like that. But if you just do one day, experience discomfort, and then go back into shoes none the wiser, you're going to be left assuming that it must be a really, really hard life not having shoes, and that's just not correct. Spend all your life in the dark, underground, and you come out into normal daylight. Except to you it's not normal daylight. It's incredibly bright and blinding. It could even cause damage to your eyes. But if you acclimatise gradually, you adapt, and
It's just normal daylight that you and I take for granted all the time.
it works with your feet, with your sense of touch. If you give it a little bit of exposure, a little bit of wear on it, the skin will thicken and it'll get stronger and tougher. So what feels very painful at first is eventually just going to be what's there, what's beneath you. In fact, what you really want to have is an hour without shoes on the first day, an hour and a half the second day, and over a week you might want to spread this to 3 or 4 hours by the end of the week. But over time, and not necessarily a very large amount of time, your feet will be able to handle anything at all.
Those feelings you get from walking barefoot become very pleasant and you actually end up preferring them.
I'd like you to imagine there's a country where the entire population is addicted to, let's say, heroin.
But it's okay because there's enough heroin for everyone to have as much as they like whenever they need it. And the country's got amazing medical care, so all the side effects are taken care of and people can take all this heroin and still live relatively ordinary lives.
And then one day, someone from this country discovers us. And they notice that very few people have heroin. And they suddenly think, oh no, nobody here has access to heroin. How can they survive? It must be horrible. We must send them heroin. And they go one day without heroin. One day trying to survive without the heroin fix that they're used to getting whenever they need, so that we can have access to some heroin. It's very kind of them, isn't it? But you don't need me to go on with this analogy and tell you where it leads. You and I live in countries where pretty much anybody can get a pair of shoes of some kind if they need to, and most people can get as many shoes as they want to, and buy shoes they don't need, and buy shoes they don't even wear.
We bring up our children telling them that they have to have shoes. Oh, you must wear shoes, otherwise you'll get hurt. And everyone else wears shoes, so you have to wear them to fit in.
But there are very few people who put this to the test. I'm one of those rare people who doesn't wear shoes pretty much anywhere at all. And we find that actually you can get by pretty well without shoes. But how does that make shoes like heroin? Well, shoes actually do a lot more harm to you than you might think. They stop your skin developing properly. and they stop your feet from walking properly. By simply putting on a pair of shoes, you turn your foot into a much more rigid structure, and you even change the way you walk. In shoes, you tend to land on your heel. This sends a lot of impact through the heel, all the way up the leg, and particularly into the knee, so you're giving your knee a lot of extra shock. Shoes are also an addiction, like a drug. So when they stop your feet developing properly, you become dependent on them. So the skin on the bottom of your foot is soft to start with, and if you wear shoes, it stays soft. Your feet sweat into shoes, and the moisture sticks around and keeps your skin soft. Then you get problems caused by microbes, bacteria, fungi, viruses that will build up and live inside your shoe and thrive on a warm, moist environment so that they can really get to work on the skin of your foot. Athlete's foot, warts, verrucas, they all come from wearing shoes. I resent TOMS attempting to poison the social attitudes of other countries towards bare feet. Bare feet are healthy feet. So the next time someone tells you they're going to join in One Day Without Shoes to raise awareness, point out that they're not helping anybody except TOMS. They're just helping TOMS sell shoes. And they're doing a huge amount of harm to people who don't have shoes and don't need shoes. And you can find me on Twitter if you want.